Hi, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started with chapter one of our textbook. I will always disclose this, usually at the beginning of our videos. The point of this video and PowerPoint is to kind of teach you the highlights, the main points of each chapter, at least the things that I think you should be focusing on that I think are important. However, I always recommend to go ahead and read the textbook, the chapter on your own. Listen to this video, watch it, or you can follow along with the PowerPoint slides. Not only will I post this video, but I will also upload the slides as well. So go ahead and read the textbook chapter as well. Just because I'm focusing on something that I think is important, there might be something in the textbook that you think is equally as important or something you didn't know. So I always recommend to go ahead and read the textbook along with paying attention to this video. Okay, so the point of today's video is to go over chapter one, which pretty much highlights the differences between academic writing and technical writing. So that's what we're really going to be focusing on because that is the main focus of this course. The main point of this class is to train your technical writing skills since they are different from academic writing. And even though we use technical writing, or I will use technical writing in this course, please be aware this is interchangeable with technical writing, business writing, writing on the job. There's a lot of different terms for this. Essentially, it's any type of writing that is done on the job for your job. Okay. So the foundation is pretty much the same with both styles of writing, academic and technical writing. You will have an audience, aka your readers. You will have a purpose, you will have organizational strategies. It's the foundation's the same. But the goal and the end product are different between the two. So for example, the purpose of academic writing is usually to discuss a topic to prove you deserve a good grade. Here is my research paper. I followed the teacher's instructions. I did my research. I kind of know, I know enough about this topic. Please give me an A. Where with technical writing, your purpose is to achieve something with work or at work. So whether that is you trying to get approval on a new business proposal, you are actually responsible for writing. So like in my industry, I'm in public relations. All I do is writing. But not only that, press releases, speeches, making sure talking points from our local leaders make sense and they flow and they're concise. So that's all on the job business writing. The knowledge levels are also different. So usually with academic writing, your teacher is the expert. They went to college, they went to grad school, whether it's a master's or PhD, like this is their area of expertise. Where on the technical writing, you're usually the expert, or you are writing for an audience who usually has the same level of knowledge as you, or maybe you're even speaking to someone who has greater knowledge than you. So it's always important to remember the main differences between academic writing and technical writing. I am having problems. Hold on. There it goes. So always remember the main differences, okay? And as you work your assignments for this course and for any future writing you'll do on the job, always remember these main differences, okay? Academic writing is very singular, one expert, one purpose, one goal, one reader. But with technical writing, you're usually the expert speaking to other experts, or you're speaking to non-experts, people who don't have any experience or don't have the same background as you. You can even have multiple readers with one goal, or you can be writing to multiple readers with several goals. The point is, it's a little bit more complex than academic writing. So now that you know the main difference between the two styles of writing, it's important to know who your audience is going to be. Okay. So this is especially crucial because with technical writing, you write for the reader, not yourself. Like I said at the previous slide, you might have multiple readers with multiple levels of experience, non-experts, experts, different purposes, one purpose. There's going to be a lot more when it comes to business writing. So, for example, are you writing a proposal for a potential new client? So you are trying to prove why, my business can take on your business as, Usually you see this a lot with marketing firms, public relation firms, big organizations. Like Fresno State actually put in its a RFP, request for proposal, some years ago, looking for HR people, an HR agency to come in. So some companies look for these REFs and then they submit their proposal, hoping that this company, this firm will hire them on. Are you creating new training programs? Are you responsible for creating a training program, writing the instructions on how to do something? Are you writing to someone who needs to approve a budget? You need to know who your reader is, but you also need to understand who your reader is. And that's going to be the next thing we're going to be focusing on. So now that you know the differences, now you need to know who your audience is. To know your audience, the first thing you need to understand are the obstacles your readers might face. Okay. So there's usually four obstacles that your readers might face. The first one is your readers are constantly being interrupted. Okay. There's going to be meetings, there's going to be phone calls. Sometimes, if you are submitting a big business proposal, sometimes some people need to read it in multiple settings. Okay. This is usually also applied to anyone who's like on a manager level. Sometimes managers or even just people in certain industries, they don't have the time to sit down, dedicate an hour or so to read a business proposal. So be aware that you are going to be writing to someone who might be constantly being interrupted. So they need to know where to leave off, where to pick up. So that's also something to keep in mind when it comes to organizing your writing. We'll get there in a few other slides. Your second obstacle, your readers are going to be so impatient. Your readers, they're going to want to know the point. Why am I reading this? What's the point of your report, your email, your memo? They usually want to know within the first like 2 to 3 sentences. Like, why am I reading this? So what? That usually are people who get a lot of interruptions. So they need to know the facts. They need to know what's going on right off the bat. Knowledge, that's usually another obstacle you have to face. Your reader might have a different background from you. So, in this case, you would be the expert educating the reader. But be careful. If you write over their heads, you will not accomplish your purpose. You want to educate your reader. You don't want to overwhelm them. You don't want them to feel like they don't understand. You want your non expert readers to walk away knowing, like, oh, okay, I understood he was trying to say. That's the whole point with understanding the obstacle when it comes to knowledge levels. And the fourth and final obstacle, most likely you're going to be writing, as I already said, for multiple readers. So there might be multiple decision makers, or you might have multiple readers who each are facing their own obstacle. You must respond and adapt to your readers. Another way to understand your audience is to know your audience is to understand your readers, okay? So you're about to write a business proposal and you're like, okay, who am I writing this for? What do you need to know? Who is your reader? What's their background? What does the reader need? Also, talk with your colleagues. Maybe this is something they've worked on before, or maybe they've experienced something similar. Understand who makes the decisions. Okay. If you are writing a proposal to get something approved, you need to know who that decision maker is, or if there are multiple decision makers. And as always, keep things simple, okay? All readers want simplicity, okay? So always practice concise, simple writing. Okay? If you think like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe I should add, more this, more charts, more things." Always get a second opinion because sometimes like it's the method. Keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes when it comes to business writing, you just got to keep it simple. Continuing with knowing your audience is also knowing the type of readers, okay? I didn't really want to highlight this, but because I was like, no, this is self-explanatory, but I was like, no, let's go ahead because I've already mentioned the word experts or managers, decision makers. So I was like, no, let's go ahead and review who the type of readers you might experience. But there's usually four groups of readers. The first group are the managers. The managers are busy managing people, managing budgets, holding strategy meetings. So always assume your managers need a refresher. Sometimes managers, once they get up on that level, they are removed from the day of task. So they're not necessarily doing the daily task, and they're not usually in the field. They're not usually out on the floor. Or they might be in an office, or they might be holding multiple meetings. So when it comes to managers, always assume that they need a refresher of background, definitions, lists to highlight points, clear statements. Usually, managers are the decision makers, okay? So, usually that means they're constantly being interrupted with all of these other things, okay? So, usually managers want the information right off the bat. So, they're going to be looking at summaries. They might be looking at what's your conclusion at the end. The second group of your readers are usually going to be experts. Experts are anyone with a good understanding of your topic. They might be well educated, so think scientists or engineers, or don't necessarily, just because they're experts, that doesn't necessarily mean education wise. Maybe you're talking to someone who's had 25 years worth of sales experience or 25 years of experience being out in the field, okay? Most experts usually need different information from managers, such as so the experts are still usually in the field. They know their stuff. So they want thorough explanations of technical details because they can understand this information. So they usually want thorough explanations. They want data placed in tables or figures. They want to know your sources, and they will probably want a list of supporting info, like an appendix. The third group of readers are usually operators. Now, just because the first two groups are usually the most important and get the most attention, do not forget about the operators and your general readers. Operators can be anyone who puts the idea in your document into practice, okay? So these are people out in the field. Think technicians and a field crew, truck drivers. They are actually applying the theory in the field. So always try to provide a table of contents, easy to read instructions for producers, definitions, a clear mission statement. While they know the task, since they're already out in the field, they might not be managers or experts, so they might not have like a big knowledge foundation of the field. So always try to give them that clear, concise, easy information to access. And then for general readers, even though they have the least amount of expert insight, they might be the most impacted by your work. So the best example I love to give is think if you're writing a report on the environmental impact a toxic waste might have. And homeowners in the surrounding area would be most impacted and they would need that information the most. So try to provide for your general readers definitions, frequent use of like graphics and charts, and a clear distinction between facts and opinions. General readers, they just need the information. They need it in a simple, concise manner that they can understand, but they just want the straight facts of what they're reading about. Once you know and understand your readers, then you begin organizing your writing. So that's where we're going to be pivoting now. We know the differences between academic and technical. We now, know that there's going to be multiple type of readers, different groups. Each reader is going to face their own obstacles. We get that now. So now we can focus on, we got to write. How do we organize this? So this model provides some options for you to consider when planning your document, okay? So sometimes you can group your readers together. So for example, option A, experts and operators. Or maybe you have to write to the entire department, regardless of their level. But organization is important. When it comes to technical writing, the book, and I also like it as well, and I feel like a lot of people follow this method, try to follow the ABC method. There's usually an abstract. So it's like a small blurb at the top, giving a quick overview of the whole entire report. Then you go into your intro, your thesis, and then you go into the body, which is the main portion of your paper. It is pretty much your justification, your argument, your list of instructions that you're providing. And then, of course, your conclusion, which gives the readers what they need to know, the final call to act, or okay, now that we know all this information, here are next steps. It's pretty standard, but like I said, simple and concise is usually the best method for business writing. There are three core principles of organization, and I always tell students to remember these three principles of organization. First principle is write different parts for different readers. Most readers use like a speed reading approach. So they might look for your intro and closing summaries only. Or maybe there's like a recommendation section. Some readers only look for the info that applies to them. So they want to look for headings or subheadings. Some readers have to constantly come back and finish readings. They can't finish it all in one setting. Okay. So, usually, for example, a manager who is swamped, they have all these business meetings. I got to approve that budget. There's a lot of things going on. So, they only have time to read like the summary and like, okay, what's the point of this paper again? Whereas technical experts, they may skip straight to the technical section. General readers, they might want to know, okay, what's the abstract? What's kind of the high level of this point? So write different parts for different readers because you might be dealing with managers, experts, non-general readers. Emphasize beginnings and endings. So that's where readers, they might have to come back and forth. Or that's usually where they come back and forth and they need to know, like, okay, where am I leaving off? Okay, here's the ending. I will mark it there. And these readers need some type of passage. Okay, so usually it's like the first sentence is telling the reader, once again, like, this is the topic of this paragraph. The last sentence is usually reinforcing that topic. Always repeat key points. Different readers have different areas of focus. I feel like I'm sounding like a broken record here. I feel like this makes sense. You're going to have different readers, different knowledge levels, different education, different purposes, different goals. Because of that, you always have to be ready for those variety of readers. So always repeat information in different sections for different readers. If you think this sounds like it's repeating itself, don't worry about it. Where with academic writing, that probably would get you docked points. You're constantly repeating information. But with technical writing, your business writing, sometimes you need to constantly repeat what's going on. Remind readers what's the point of this business proposal or this memo. So always remind readers, repeat your key points, emphasize beginnings and endings. So that way, those readers who have to constantly step away, have interruptions, they know where to stop or where to end. And then write different parts for different readers. Those are the readers who may scan for easy to read sections. They might have follow-ups, or they might go directly to the sections that apply to them. So always be ready for your different variety of readers. And then I feel like this is self-explanatory, but this is very important. Always be ethical, okay, when it comes to your writing, especially with your business writing. If anything, we have more of a responsibility. Yes, academic writing, don't cheat, don't plagiarize, you know that. But when it comes to your business writing, you actually will be impacting other people. Okay, you will be setting up systems to help other people. This will really impact things. So being ethical is so important. And these are usually the rules when it comes to writing, ethical business writing. So do no harm. This is especially important for people who work in public health and safety. Avoid practices that can harm people or property. Be fair, regardless of your differences or your beliefs. You should always treat people with respect. So always be respectful with your writing. Honor. Honor intellectual property rights. This is a big one, especially I feel like with AI. Make sure you are citing your sources, giving credit to other team members, and of course, following any relevant copyright or patent laws. This is especially important for people who work in like advertising, marketing, media. Respect confidentiality. This also is going to be important to people who do client work. Always remember you are acting on behalf of your employer and your clients. Disclose sensitive information in your writing only if you have permission. This is especially important if you are building like a portfolio to showcase your projects. You need to make sure you have permission to highlight the work you've created. For example, my previous position was at a PR agency. I was on the healthcare team, so a lot of my clients, actually all of my clients were pharmaceutical, health tech, startup companies. Some of them weren't public, and some of them were actually private. So the laws are different for private companies and public companies. And so I did a lot of work, a lot of writing. And when it came time for me to start job searching, and I was like, okay, maybe I can showcase this, or maybe I can show like this is the writing I did. I actually was not allowed to highlight that. I signed a confidentiality agreement before I took the job stating that any work that I worked on would stay with the firm because that work is something on behalf of my client. I don't own that, my client does. So I was not allowed to showcase any of that. If I did, I would be in breach of my contract. So that's why it's always important to honor property rights and respect confidentiality. And of course, be professional. This is hand in hand with being fair. Be kind, be courteous, don't be rude. Just do no harm, be fair, make sure you're following the laws and the rules, and you should be fine. And that's it, everybody. So we've got it through the first chapter. I'm sorry that you were listening to my voice for I don't know how long, but if you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and create like a Q&A board in the module. So I will post this video. I will post the slides, upload the slides, and I will also leave a Q&A discussion board. So that way, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in there. I always say if you have a question, there's probably a good chance that someone else has a similar question. Um, Reach out to me via email, send me a message via Canvas if you don't want to, if you don't want to post your question out for everyone to see. But until then, I will see you all with the next video.